Learn how to overcome that thing that's holding you back. Hey, my dear, I'm leadership development coach Kathy Archer and author of best-selling book, Mastering Confidence. What I know is that most women leaders hit a point in their career where they feel in over their heads. They're wondering if they have what it takes to lead. And in my courses, in my coaching, in my book, I give you the inner and outer tools so that you can restore that lost confidence and move from surviving to thriving in both your leadership and life. I'm going to share today's broadcast into my Confident Women Leaders group. If you are a woman in a leadership position, want to be connected to other women who are maybe going through some of these similar challenges that you are and want to feel that network of support, then I've put the link up in the notes. You can join it now. While I'm sharing this, what I want to know, today we're talking about how to overcome that thing that's holding you back. What do you think is holding you back? Put a note in the chat box, whether you're watching on live now or you're following along in the replay. What's holding you back? And I'm trying to find the post so that I can share it. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Almost. There we go. Share to a group. Confident Women Leaders group, posted. Okay, so again, what I want to know is, what do you think's holding you back? And while you're thinking about that and while you're typing that in, I want to let you know that today's broadcast is brought to you by Blueprint for Change. Blueprint for Change is my online course for discontent women leaders who long for a different experience of leadership and life. And I know that just might be you. What many women find is that they are stuck and they want a different way. When you enroll in Blueprint for Change, you get both the process and the motivation for taking the steps necessary to create your specific, individualized, unique blueprint that's going to move you from today's dismal reality to tomorrow's promising desire. But Blueprint for Change closes tomorrow. So if you've been thinking about it, don't delay. No more hesitation. Again, the link is up in the notes if you want to join Blueprint for Change. Today, learn how to overcome that thing that's holding you back. What's holding you back? And what is it holding you back from? Well, my guess is there is something that you're not doing. Maybe it's not taking a specific action, but my guess is probably you're not reaching your full potential. We've been talking about surviving to thriving. My guess is you're not at that point where you're thriving. You're probably barely surviving some days. Other days you're doing not so bad, but you're not getting to that point that you want to get to. And my guess is that when you decided to take on this leadership position, move into this role, do this thing that you're doing, that you had a vision of how it was going to be. You kind of knew it was going to be hard. You knew there was going to be some difficult times, but you thought, I can handle it. I can manage it. You probably also thought there would be some busy points, but that there would also be those points where you got to sort of soak in everything that was going on, reap the benefits of what was happening, feel really connected and proud to your work. My guess is that's the vision you've had. If you have other ways of describing it, put a note in the chat box. And just a side note while I'm talking, if these sessions, if you keep coming back to these sessions and you're finding them valuable, please share them into your newsfeed, because there are probably other women who could also find them valuable. So just a note. So that's probably the vision you had, right? The reality is you are just focused on the daily grind. My guess is your reality is that you are a little bit afraid, or a lot afraid, that you're going to drop the ball on something, that you spend a lot of your time scrambling, trying to, keep everything in line. And there's probably this underlying tone of incompetence, where you're almost afraid somebody's going to discover that you can't handle it, that you can't do it, that you're not good enough. And that's probably that daily place that you hang out, where you're kind of just feeling like you're never going to do it right. And so give me a thumbs up if that's kind of your reality of where you sit sometimes, where you kind of feel that that's where you hang out most of the time. So the reality is you wanted this one vision, and what you've got doesn't quite measure up. Now, you have the ability to get to that vision. You have the ability to reach what you want to reach, to create the life and leadership experience. And that's what I keep talking about here. I don't believe for a moment this is only about how you lead. I don't believe for a moment it's only about how you live. I think they mesh and blend and overlap constantly. And if you want to look at your life, you got to look at both leadership and life together. So in your role, how you're showing up there is also indicative of how you're showing up in your life, and vice versa. So what's holding you back? What's getting in your way of getting to that vision that you desire? When I was thinking about this today, I started thinking about all of the women that I work with and how different you all are. And so I thought I would kind of go through a list of some of the women that I work with, because I think what you're going to see is this one thing that's holding you all back crosses all boards. So I work with women who are in leadership in nonprofits. I work with women who are in municipal positions. So you might work for the town or the city or the MD or the region, however you call it in your neck of the woods. I work with many women who work in small businesses. So they might be a leader in a small business. Many of the women that I work with are business owners. I work with dentists and hairdressers and vets and consultants and women who run stores, like all of that kind of stuff. I've also do some work with women who are in public office. So, you know, maybe running for town council, or again, sort of the rural area, running for a position there. I also work with women who are in leadership positions after hours. So maybe you volunteer for the president on your community board. So all of those, I mean, really varied, right? I mean, you look, if you're in the Confident Women Leaders group and you look at all of the different women in that group, we are a varied bunch. It's not like we're all in the same type of organization or same type of position. But here's the thing, all of those women, all of you, me included, there's one thing that really gets in the way of holding us back. Any idea what it is? If you've got it, pop it into the chat box if you think you know. What's that one thing? It's fear. Fear is what stops us from moving forward. Fear gets in our way. And there are three types of fear that I want to talk about today. The first one is fear of failure, right? We are so afraid that any misstep we take is going to cause us to get in trouble, lose our position, lose respect, or impact our career in some way. That if we take the wrong move, do something in a way that somebody's not happy with, if we fall down, flub up, fail, mess up, create a big mess, whatever it is, that somehow that's going to impact us. I was in constant fear when I was in my leadership position. I certainly didn't know it at the time, but I now look back. There was always this fear that my boss was going to, you know, come visit me, phone me, have this, you know, email sent to me that says, you're not doing it right. And as a result, you're going to be demoted. You're going to get in trouble. I'm going to say something. He wasn't mean, but it was just this underlying tone that I was always afraid I was doing something wrong, and that somehow I would be found out, right? So when things happen, and the reality is this happened. So when things happened, it just sort of reinforced that fear in me. So I had staff file a grievance against me. Holy Hannah, like what's that, right? Nothing like sort of pushing somebody down and stomping on them saying, boy, you screwed up. I had, you know, just staff drama where things went wrong, and they would phone my boss behind my back, and he would have these conversations with them, and then he'd call me and say, what's going on in your team? And it's like, oh, you know, stick a knife in my heart and dig it around, because I didn't want in any way, shape, or form for anybody to think I was incompetent. Running our own businesses. Many of you are business owners. God forbid somebody finds out that I'm not as good as a coach as I think I am, or that somebody questions, you know, a training session I do, or reads my book and says, that's a piece of crap, Kathy, right? We don't want to be seen as incompetent. So it's that fear of failure. If you have some of those fears, make a note in the chat box. What are you afraid of failing at, right? What are you afraid of messing up at? I mean, it's simple little things like, I used to struggle with Excel or spreadsheets or doing reports, and I was always afraid that somebody was going to come back and say, there's this huge error, Kathy, and as a result of this error, this is the sort of implications of it. You know, those are things that we're afraid of. Second fear that many women leaders have, it's our fear about our family. We are afraid that if we talk about our family, bring up our family, have issues with our family, that if in any way, shape, or form our family impacts our job, that we are seen as vulnerable, messy, incapable, and not as worthy as other people. This holds a lot of women back from having families, from talking about their families. It leads us to push our family values aside because work must be more important. And it leaves us sort of feeling, or it leaves us feeling that others are viewing us as incapable or unmotivated. Well, she has a family, so she's not going to do good at that position. We won't even encourage her to move up. And this is one of the reasons why you see in the statistics that women far outnumber men in the job field, but not in leadership positions. The higher you get in the hierarchy of any organization, nonprofits, business, big business, the higher you get in the hierarchy, the more men you see leading. You will see women in the frontline leadership positions. You'll see women in the mid-range leadership positions. But the higher you get, very, very few women move up. And it's because of these fears. They're afraid of failure, and they're afraid of talking about their family or how their family might impact them. The third fear that we have is this inferiority complex. We truly believe that we aren't as good as other people, especially men. And we hold ourselves back because we don't believe we have what it takes to do this. Right? That somehow we aren't smart enough, educated enough, experienced enough. We don't have as good at communication skills. We aren't as good at math. We aren't as good at strategic planning. Whatever enough is, add the word in there, and we don't believe we are that. So it's those three fears, that fear of failure, that fear of our family getting in the way, and then that inferiority complex. Those are the three fears that stop you from reaching your full potential. Those are the three fears that get in your way of you taking on new things, stepping into new territory, trying on new roles, going back to school, asking for help. All of those things get in your way because you're afraid. And it's that fear. So how do you get over that? Well, let's take a look at what fear is. Fear is thoughts. That's it. You can see a snake and I can see a snake and you may have a totally different reaction than me. Same snake, same time, totally different reaction. Why? Because it's what I'm telling myself about that snake or what you're telling yourself about that snake and what that evokes inside of us. I can stand up in the room and give a speech because I've spent a lot of time training those thoughts that I have in my mind to back off and, quiet them down. I've worked at reducing that inner chatter that says you're going to mess up, people aren't going to listen to you, people aren't going to care about what you say, you're not a very good speaker. And I've reduced those thoughts and I've raised the thoughts that say, you are a good speaker, Kathy. You've trained to do this. You constantly do this all the time. You have been acknowledged for your speaking abilities. And so I raise my level of confidence by changing what I'm thinking. The same is true if we think about going back to school or applying on a new position. If you think about applying on a new position and fear hits you, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have the right education. Statistics show that men will apply on a position if they only have something like 20% of the requirements. So, there's a job ad out and it lists this, 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 and this, and a man can look at it and go, yeah, I got a couple of those, I'm good, I'll apply on it. A woman believes she has to have every single thing. So if it says, university degree preferred and she's only got a college diploma, but 25 years of experience, she'll say, I'm not qualified. Whereas a man will be like, I'll apply. Who knows, might get it. And there's a good chance he will get it, right? So we let those things hold us back. there are 3 steps that I want to talk to you about for getting through that fear and to reaching your potential, right? Because it's when you get through that you find that vision that you thought was going to happen when you moved into leadership. That vision of feeling more connected, feeling prouder, feeling more capable, enjoying the job more than feeling like I'm going to mess up every second. If you want to get to there are 3 things you need to do. First, you need to get really clear on that vision. And I talk about this all the time. I have tons of blogs. There's lots of guide sheets that you can go back and help to create your vision. But what is that? What is it that you're looking for? For some of us, it's work-life balance. I'm just overwhelmed. I can't get to spending time with my kids, helping them out in school. My house is a mess. I haven't worked out. I'm not eating healthy. And I'm trying to, stay late to get this work done. And I know I have to travel. And I know I have to do this project. And right, it's that work-life balance. So that might be your vision, is more work-life balance. Maybe your vision is increasing your level of confidence. I want to feel confident in my leadership role. I don't want to feel like I'm always failing or falling apart or about to mess up. Maybe you're looking for that vision to set better boundaries. You've found that your boss or your staff or your team or the community constantly pushes you to take on more. I sat down with one of my clients one day, and we looked at the numbers of meetings she was attending, and it was crazy. And I'm like, why do you attend all of these meetings? Like, do you need to be there? What's the value in them? And what we realized was over time, someone said, oh, you should go to this meeting, and oh, you should go to this meeting, and this would be important for you. And I think you should take on this role in this organization. And before you knew it, she hadn't sort of set some boundaries around what meetings are important for me to attend. In my role as leader, what is the type of stuff that I need to be involved in? Where can I delegate? Does our organization even need to be going to this meeting? And so setting some boundaries. The other thing that many of you are looking for is to just be a stronger leader. We move up into these leadership positions because we have the frontline skill. I knew how to teach parent education. And so suddenly I became the supervisor of the people teaching parent education. And then suddenly I became the director of, 3 or 4 people who were supervising people doing parent education. And then all of a sudden we got added in fetal alcohol syndrome. And then there were some programs that were disabilities. And all of a sudden I'm leading all of this stuff. I'm attending provincial meetings and sitting on boards. And I've never been taught how to lead necessarily. I've been taught how to do the frontline work, and I've learned by doing to a certain point, but I knew that I hadn't got the training around how do you manage teams and how do you balance that with being strategic, and then how do you figure out conflict resolution and all of that in terms of, then also looking at how do I get reporting done, how do I negotiate contracts, and oh my goodness, there is a lot of stuff in a leadership role. So for me, I knew that I had to go back to school, and I knew that I had to take specific training, and that's what I started doing. So that might be your vision, is how do you become a stronger leader? So that's the first step. Get clear on that vision. Spend some time journaling. Journaling is critical to this process. Stop and kind of look at, where am I? What do I need to learn? What do I want? Sit down and make some notes. It can be point form. It can be drawn or doodled, whatever. And again, there's some, if you go to silverrivercoaching.com/guides and you scroll down, you'll find one on creating your powerful vision. So there's a process that I give you to go through. And actually, I think it's in the guide sheet that is a sneak peek into Blueprint for Change here as well. I think that's what you're working on in that one. So number 1, get clear on your vision. Number 2, get clear on the steps. What do you need to do to get there? So if you want to develop a level of confidence, it's interesting because when I thought about how I grew my confidence, there's some things that you wouldn't think about that grew my level of confidence. One is I took adult swimming lessons. What does that have to do with anything? Well, it's the same as I also started going to the gym and developing, stronger core muscles and stronger upper body muscles and stronger leg muscles. That helped my level of confidence. Now, again, you wouldn't think that swimming lessons, I was scared to swim, right? Scared I would sink in the deep end. But confidence and courage is a muscle. It's just like muscles in the gym. And so when you strengthen that ability to do those things that you're scared of outside of your leadership role, it teaches you many things about how to do it inside of your leadership role. I'm terrified of heights, but when I stood on the floor, the glass floor of the Calgary Tower, that was growing that courage muscle. That gives me the confidence then to do other things like stand here in front of you every week, week after week, and do this. So growing your confidence may not be specifically around leadership. It might be. The other thing that I did years ago was I joined Toastmasters. I wish I'd joined Toastmasters when I was in a leadership role, because I know the level of confidence that I've gained from that would have helped me tremendously in leadership. So that might be some of the steps that you're doing. If it's leadership, if you want to be a more competent leader, maybe you need to take some training, read some books, find a mentor. If you're looking to develop better boundaries, maybe you need to identify your values or sit down and look at your long-term goals and then look at how what you're working on fits in with that. So step 1, create that vision. Step 2, get clear on the steps. Step 3 is identify the fears that's getting in your way and address those fears. That's the issue we have. It is not the steps. It is not the course I need to take, the book I need to read. It is the fear of applying it. It's the fear of I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. People are going to think I'm dorky. Whatever it is, it's that fear. How am I going to deal with this with my family? How am I going to overcome that fear of feeling less than if I'm going to apply on my position and I know my male counterpart is going to apply on it too? That's the fear. It's that inner dialogue that gets in our way. And in order to address it, you need to identify it first. You got to do that inner work. I constantly am talking about the inner work. In Blueprint for Change, you are doing that inner work. You are doing the worksheets. You are doing the exploration. You are doing the observation. You are going through that whole, in Mastering Confidence, I talk about it. It's the inner guidance cycle. It's pausing. It's pondering. Doing that self-reflection, looking at what am I afraid of, what gets in my way, going back and looking at what got you through fear before, where do you need to move to. It's all of that inner stuff that you need to do. And then you can address it, right? But you have to identify it first. So look at your vision, create the steps that you need to do to get there, and then look at what's going to get in your way fear-wise before you go there. Because that's really what's going to get you to that part. Now, I wanted to just touch for a minute on Blueprint for Change. As I said, this is the last day to enroll. And if you're looking for, or tomorrow's the last day to enroll, sorry. If you're looking for a system to walk you through this inner stuff, Blueprint for Change is it. I give you all of the worksheets to do that inner work. And I walk you through the process. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? What do I need to do to get there? What is that inner stuff that's going to get in the way? That's what's going to trip you up. And if you don't address that inner stuff, you can set all the goals you want, but you're going to struggle to achieve them because it's that inner resistance. It's that inner mind chatter. It's that gremlin that sits in your ear and natters away and says, you're not good enough. You don't have what it takes. Your family's going to get in the way. People are going to judge you. You're not smart enough. All of that stuff is going to get in your way. So I wanted to just touch on a couple objections or things that you have if you've been thinking about Blueprint for Change and you've been hesitating. One, many women will say to me, I don't have the time to add anything else to my plate. I'm overwhelmed. I'm swamped. I couldn't do it, Kathy. Here's the thing. You can keep going where you're going, but if you don't sort of draw that line in the sand, put your foot down and say, I want to change, nothing's going to change. But if you can commit to that and commit to 15 minutes a day, that's it. And it's not even every single day. If you could commit to 15 minutes a day for 3 or 4 days a week, you could create your strategic plan and change your life. Yes, it's going to take some time, but maybe not as much as you think. And once you hop into the program, I give you ideas and strategies around where to find that 15 minutes and how to fit it into your day. So if that's one of the things that's been holding you back, don't let that one hold you back. You do have the time and you can do it. Next thing that women will say to me is, I don't know how to create my plan. I don't know how to be more strategic about it. I don't know how to do that inner work. I gave you the process. Blueprint for Change walks you through it. So you don't have to know how to do it. Hop into the program and it'll do it. Third thing that women will say to me, and then often you won't say this, but underlying this is the tone. I'm afraid of change, right? We all like hanging out in our comfort zone. Our comfort zone is not so comfy, but we tolerate things here. We settle for things here. We put up with things here. And to get out of that comfort zone means we have to do some change. In Blueprint for Change, I address your fear of change. There is a worksheet, 2 worksheets that we go through to look at, again, what is the change that you're afraid of? How do you deal with it? What's going to get you moving through that? Many of you will say, I'm just not motivated. You know what? I know I need to do something different. I know I need to deal with work-life balance. I know I need to eat healthier. I know that I'm not living up to my full potential in my leadership, but you know what? It just seems like a lot of work to change it. When you go through this program, you'll find that motivation. You will spark something inside you that will urge you to take that next step. And so that's really exciting. And then the last thing people say is that I lack the confidence, or I'm uncertain, about doing this. And here's the thing. When you lack that confidence, it's often because you don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. And when you start to create that plan, when you start to see those tiny little baby steps that you can take, that's what gives you that level of confidence. That's what urges you forward. And if you can pause, again, 15 minutes a day to start really creating that, that's what's going to give you that momentum. In the guide sheets today, I have a sneak peek into Blueprint for Change. So if you pop on up to the notes, there's one that says sneak peek into Blueprint for Change. And yeah, I remembered now, it's the lesson on creating your vision. So that's the first step to getting through this fear. Create that vision, then create your steps, then look at the fear and start addressing that fear. And so in the notes, you'll find that there is a link. You can get into Blueprint for Change, get one of the lessons for free, start to create your powerful vision. If you find that helpful, don't delay, because tomorrow's the last day to sign up for Blueprint for Change. And I want to see you inside the course, because I know that this place where you're at is feeling a little bit frazzled, frustrated, overwhelmed, the day-to-day grind. And where you want to be is out of that survival mode and thriving in both your leadership and life. And if you want to do that, stop, draw that line in the sand today, commit to taking a tiny little bit of action, moving through that fear, and you, my dear, will move from surviving to thriving in both your leadership and your life. Go make the rest of your day awesome.